Hey guys, I'm Khalil Fong. Now you're listening to Billboard Radio China.
I love you so much.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Ladies and gentlemen.
And the Billboard Music Award goes to Big Interview.
夜绚烂花火已熄灭，最刺心的是离别，总在没有你的季节。回忆爱，从快乐走到悲哀，紧握的手却松开，再也不可能重来。现在也不眠，也不倦，也不变，是想念。
What's going on, Billboarders? This is Doomkitty. We are back again with another great interview. This time we're sitting down with a guy who might be considered one of the top leaders in Mando pop right now. He's doing some crazy stuff, and he's got some cool projects on the way right now. Before we get into it, ladies and gentlemen, this is Khalil Fong.
Hello.
What's going on,
Hi,
dude?
everybody. Good.
So,
Good to be here.
Of course, I think a lot of people listening may not actually know who you are because, of course, you've got a big name in the China world, in Mandarin music, in sort of Asia, let's say. But people listening from North America, Europe, they may not have heard of you before. They may not know about your music. Talk me through a little bit about how you got to where you are today.
Well, I guess I'd say that. Well, I grew up in Hawaii. I was born in Hawaii.
You were born in Hawaii,
Yeah.
which is, we should point out, one of the reasons you speak English so well. You grew up in a family that came from the States, moved to China, right?
Yeah. Actually, my dad was, I think, fourth generation. I think. I forgot. Anyway, it doesn't matter. Unimportant. But basically, yeah. I was born in Hawaii. My mom's from Hong Kong.
Okay.
But we moved to Shanghai when I was 5. And then we lived there for like 6 years, and then I've been in Hong Kong ever since after that. So we've been in Hong Kong for the longest time.
So you've been here since you were a kid?
Yeah,
basically.
since I was in my mid-teens.
Wow, okay,
Yeah. So it's I mean, that's just sort of the history. But musically, my dad was a drummer.
Okay.
So that's where I started listening to like the soul and the funk and everything, and getting into R&B and all that. So when I was a kid, it was like R&B and blues and gospel. And when, I actually, the turning point for me was when I watched La Bamba.
Okay.
Not stylistically, although I love the 50s music, but it was more of the whole passion for music.
Okay.
And that was back in Hawaii.
Right.
And so that's what I think ingrained that idea in me that, oh yeah, I want to sing maybe, someday. So it eventually worked till the point where I was in Hong Kong and I started songwriting. And then that's when I sent my demo to Warner Records back then. And the career eventually started, about 5 years after I sent the demos. And here I am now. Basically, I guess what you could say is, in a nutshell, I've tried to introduce the genre of, or I wouldn't say solely, but one of the, let's say, few who are trying to introduce the genre of soul and R&B into the Mandarin market.
And I think it's safe to say, listening to your sorted collection, and, a lot of people might look at just the studio albums, but also the live albums. There are a lot of influences from, more generally Western music, but more specifically, like you say, blues, R&B, soul, that sort of stuff. How's the reception been with the Chinese audiences?
I'd say that it depends on what I do, because I'm always like experimenting, and I'm pretty eclectic in that sense. So I think there's always hit and miss. There's always stuff that they love more and like a little bit less. But then at the same time, when I do something that's, a little offbeat, you have like other people who come and say, oh, I like that.
That was really cool, right?
Yeah. So it's really, for me, it's about, I really want to try to keep things fresh. And because I like to listen to so many different styles, that I really want to kind of test my limits, or at least kind of push the envelope a bit, at least when it's the sort of the Chinese market, because genres aren't as diverse. I'd say in the last 2 years, things have started picking up more as far as different styles. But I'd say traditionally, people are more used to like a certain sound, which there's nothing wrong with that. But I hope to as far as even my personal beliefs, I really feel like cultures should sort of have more borders that are broken, let's say. Not borders that are broken, but
growth, right?
Growth, yeah. Cultural exchange, more fusion within music. So that's kind of what I'm, at the moment heading towards. Yeah.
Well, okay, so let's talk a little bit about what's happened so far. I mean, from Soul Boy, which is the first album, all the way to now, Journey to the West is the most recent release right now. How do you see that having grown and changed?
I would say I'm still on the road to finding my sound.
Okay.
Personally,
and I mean, most artists, I think, are always on that road.
That's true, yeah. And for me, it's like, I think I'm kind of finding it. For me, it's just, I really feel that for me, it's like, sometimes I think I've got this like Sammy Davis Jr., not to say the talent, like he's like, to me he's way.
I think you've got a lot of fans who might argue that, but we'll let that slide.
but like it's because he was this guy who did a bit of everything. Yeah. And somehow I see that, and it's unintentional because I wasn't like always following Sammy when I was a kid, but later when I read and understood more about him, I was like, oh, we're kind of like a jack of all trades but expert at none kind of thing. Although I'd say he was definitely awesome, but we were, I'd say we like to experiment here and there, and I think that's what I like to do with my music. And it might not be in my own career that it really eventually solidifies itself. It could be what I do creatively with my record label or with later I'll tell you about the new book that I released. So,
yeah, we're gonna jump into that, definitely.
Yeah, so I think it's really interesting. I think for me it's just about being creative and about doing stuff that I feel is really sincere and genuine. So that's, I think, my main drive when I do music or the creative arts.
So there's a question that I think almost every artist gets asked all the time. It's starting to sound like with you this might be a difficult question, actually.
Yeah.
How do you describe your music? To you, what is it? How does it fall onto the landscape of music around the world?
Well, I'd say it's really very much at its base, it's R&B and soul. Okay. And of course, roots and blues and everything, because when I was a kid, I was listening to Jimi Hendrix and Clapton a lot. So it's a bit of everything, but I think, when people listen to me, you'll hear a lot of Michael Jackson, you'll hear like Earth, Wind & Fire, Music Soul Child, you'll hear kind of vibes from, let's say, the past 50 years of R&B and soul in what I do. And of course, you hear that in other people too, but in different ways and manifest in different ways. So you'll hear it in me, but I think right now, I think this, from going to an artist who is trying to create Chinese soul and R&B, now I'm sort of trying to do music that's more cross-cultural. So to fuse like certain traditional Chinese elements with R&B or with Western music, with interesting sonic soundscapes, and just kind of try to do my own unique twist on a genre that's already been well established. So I think right now it's really about experimentation and trying to. I was talking to my friend. I was saying I want to really explore and we'll see where that takes me. Yeah.
Well, of course, a lot of people talk about.
I didn't answer your question, actually.
I wasn't going to be rude about that, but I know with what you're doing, that's got to be tough to sort of put it into a specific box, though, right? I mean, that's
it is, and but I think I'm at the stage where my influences have sort of, there's a point I think where every artist sort of. Well, not every artist, but certain artists I do know, because I read up and I see interviews, and there's a point where they kind of decide or start to shed the baggage of their influences and sort of mold into their own thing. And I feel right now in the last 2 or 3 years, it's sort of been that process for me, where I'm letting, I think, my influences flow more naturally into something that will will manifest in a more natural and unintentional way, I think. So we'll see. Yeah, I'm curious on what's going to happen with that down the road.
Well, it's got to be complicated. I mean, that can't be easy. Trying to figure it out, get your artistic juices flowing in the way you want it to go, right?
Yeah. But it's fun because it's I haven't yet gotten writer's block. I hope I don't. But it's always fun for me. It's like music is just fun. It's just playtime, but discipline. A lot of discipline mixed with playtime. So yeah, with the new label, I working with Diana, who's our first artist besides myself. Had a lot of fun on that album. I hope people have time to check that one out too.
Well, talking about Diana and your new label, I wanted to jump into that a little bit. Let's start off, obviously, with the label, because I think that's the easier starting point for this. Tell me a little bit about this. And also, let me just ask you, while you're talking about it, last I heard you were looking at crowdfunding the label.
Yeah.
What happened with that?
Okay, well, this is funny. It's actually really cool. We can talk about it. It was like one of those things where I was thinking it would be it's like a romantic thing, Wouldn't it be romantic to fund my label to the fans or to the general public who probably would love the idea of you doing your own indie label and all these ideas of grandeur, and and because you see Jessica Alba and she did her crowdfunding thing, and, but Jessica Alba's Jessica Alba, but it was like this idea, whatever, I'll just try it for once in my life, and it was for me a unique way to tell the fans that I'm starting my own label. I went in knowing that, well, it's either gonna flop or succeed, and if it succeeds, great. But it didn't succeed in that sense through the crowdfunding. So, but back to reality. I don't think anything comes easily. I say nothing's too easy, but nothing's too difficult either in that sense. So, it was fun, but back now it's really just hard work, perseverance, and creativity. So that was the crowdfunding aspect. So now basically, I'm just working at it with the team, and we're really, I'd say, trying to do something, do something cool. That's where we're at now. Yeah.
Well, when I read about the crowdfunding, I was really, really interested in this because, of course, the U.S., Canada, Europe, there's a strong history of that sort of thing. Kickstarter, of course, comes to mind right away.
Yeah.
I think Asia, to me at least, seems to have sort of that cultural reservedness to it, where they're kind of going, why am I giving you my money?
Yeah.
Why can't you just get money?
Yeah. It's a slightly different culture in that aspect, and I did hear comments that are like, exactly kind of what you said. So it was that kind of well-wishing. I mean, my own sort of what would you call it? Hopeful optimism. Yeah. That basically. They believe in me. They'd be, hop on the boat. But it's hard. It's my passion. It's not theirs.
Sure. Yeah.
But I mean, I'd say in the West maybe it's easier for people to identify with that and be, oh yeah, that sounds cool. But it's okay. For me, it's if things are too easy, what's the challenge? And I think
absolutely.
So it's fun. It's an experience.
And I think that's the thing. A lot of artists don't do that sort of thing. They don't go out of their comfort zone, try stuff like that.
Right.
So it must have been really at least cool to try and figure out a little bit.
Yeah, to see what it was all about. And I thought, you live once here, and so why not, give it a try. So.
Well, exactly. And so talking about this, you brought up Diana. Let's talk about her a little bit as well.
Yeah.
And of course, no one knows that she's sitting outside. I don't know if she can hear us or not.
Not sure. Can't say anything. No.
But tell me a little bit about working with her, because you guys have collaborated before. I know at least one song off of some of the recent projects you've done with her.
Yeah.
And for people who don't know, you guys are performing together at Billboard Radio Live in January.
That's right.
And I've got it written down here, January 20th. You two are sharing a stage then.
Yeah.
So tell me a little bit about how you guys met and working together.
Well, we haven't really. Let's start from like the Warner days. We were both in Warner.
Okay.
And this was, I think, my second album, and it was a song in my second album that was a single. My colleague said, "There's this girl that we recently signed. She's from Holland. She's Dutch-born Chinese, and she loves R&B as well. And she might be the lead actress in your music video." So I said, "Oh, cool. But it didn't happen. I forgot, certain things. And so eventually, time passed. It took her quite a while to get her project off the ground. And I always remembered this Dutch girl who loved R&B in the back of my mind. And then when she was finally releasing her album about 5 or 6 years later, I said, "Oh, well, why don't you come and, be in my MV since you didn't have a chance back then?" So she ended up being in, I think, 3 of my music videos back then. Yeah. And it was just really to sort of help her promote, her next release, her first release actually back then. And so from there, we actually still didn't really keep in touch. So from then, I think we maybe spoke once a year on social media, or,
you
platforms.
connect once in a while, right?
Yeah. And finally, it was about last year's. The exact date. Anyway, she told me, I'm switching to another company, and I think it was just asked for a bit of advice. And I said, go ahead and do your thing. Talk to as many people as you can. And I said, well, if you feel like you can come talk to me, because at that time I was just formulating the idea of Fu Music, and I really had no idea that she would actually come, to Fu Music. But in the end, she called up one day and she said, oh yeah, why don't we have a chat? So today, here we are, album's done, and the album's out, and happy about it. So it's pretty cool.
Yeah, I mean, it sounds like it. And of course, like I say, everyone's looking forward to Billboard Radio Live. Having you guys, you're closing out the series actually, so you guys are going to be the last performers.
Oh, cool.
At least from what I've been told.
Right.
Have you guys performed together in the past? Like, I assume so. I'm guessing.
Let me think. Hey, actually, I don't think we have yet. No, we've shot music videos. We have not, unless my memory fails me, but I don't think so. I don't think we've been on the same stage yet. Yeah.
That'll be interesting.
Yeah,
okay.
Yeah.
And I think I'm hearing rumors I might be one of the guys hosting it, so that'll be really fun.
Then we'll see you on stage. Will
absolutely.
You sing with us?
I think we're gonna spare everyone and make sure that never happens. But I'll talk a lot.
Okay.
I do that.
Okay.
Talk a lot.
Okay. Well, that's good because we're not much. I'm not much of a talker.
夜绚烂花火已熄灭，最刺心的是离别，总在没有你的季节。回忆爱，从快乐走到悲哀，紧握的手却松开，再也不可能重来。现在也不眠，也不倦，也不变，是想念。你说你不愿，你不见，你不恋，旧情难圆，是我该说抱歉。Every time you sigh, every time you cry, girl, I miss the way we were sometimes. Just the way we were, we were so sure. We were both in the love of our lives. If this is a dream, I just wanna lose myself in every shadow of your smile. Cause girl, I love you so much. Yes, I love you so much. 追错身以后的体会，习以为常的以为有你相伴的珍贵，回爱从相知变成了独白，我们的笑容不在，一切是我自己活该。哦，现在也不眠，也不倦，也不变，是想念。你说你不愿，你不见，你不恋，旧情难圆，是我该说抱歉。对从前 Girl, I miss the way, girl, I really miss the way we were sometimes. Just the way we were, just the way we were. So sure when we were so sure, both in the love of our lives, babe. If it's a dream, I just wanna lose myself in every single smile you have. Oh yeah, cause girl, I love you so much. Yes, I love you so much. If you have to go, I know that I can't keep you. That I can't keep you here. If you ain't with me no more, no use talking about before. If you were with me right now, would you be the way you were, or would you be another girl? There's so much that I'd like to know about the way you feel, what's in your heart when we're apart. Tell me if it wasn't real. If there is one thing I know that I can say is true, in me there'll always be a place. Every time you sigh, every time you cry, girl, I miss the way we were sometimes. Just the way we were, when we were so sure we were both in the love of our lives. If this is a dream, I just wanna lose myself in every shadow of your smile. 'Cause girl, I love you so much, yes, I love you. Every time you cry, girl, I miss the way we said we'd never say goodbye. And I miss the way we were so sure that we'd be forever, baby. Girl, don't you remember when you were smiling inside, when you were crying? I would cherish every precious moment spent with you. Girl, I love you so much, yes, I love you so much, girl. Oh, 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 girl, I love you so much.
Hey guys, I'm Khalil Fong. Now you're listening to Billboard Radio China.
I love you so much.
The AIA Great European Carnival is returning in December. It's bigger and better than ever before with new rides, new games, and new toys. Last but not least, the Great Circus of Europe, a heart-pounding show for families of all ages. The most sensational part of the show, though, is the motorcycle in the globe, featuring professional and experienced performers reaching speeds of over 100 kilometers per hour in a steel mesh sphere. What's more, the medal winner of the International Circus Festival of Monte Carlo, the Gerlins, will perform their debut show in Hong Kong. The jaw-dropping 7-person high-wire pyramid combines a perfect sense of balance with teamwork of the highest possible standard. Don't miss the chance to check this out. Buy your tickets now at tgec.asia. And don't forget, free entrance to the AIA Great European Carnival on the same day is included with the Great Circus of Europe ticket. We'll see you at the carnival.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you. Ladies and gentlemen.
And the Billboard Music Award goes to Big Interview.
关于爱情的轻重，我们都在学习中，曾经很懵懂。
You know what? You say that, you're doing pretty well. You're holding up you're doing better than I can sing. Let's put it that way.
Thank you.
We've talked about this. You've mentioned it. We've got to get in depth. People know you as a singer. They know you as an artist. A lot of people might not necessarily realize artists do all sorts of fun stuff. You've got an interesting project. You mentioned this. It's a book. Well, I suppose a book series almost. Just looking at it.
Yeah.
Tell me a little bit about this.
Well, it's an illustrated novel. It's a series of illustrated novels, something that I started working on about 4 years ago. The history is back when I was a kid, my mom actually had her own curriculum. And so she's basically in education. And when I started to become a recording artist, she came over to help me on the business side. And I said, look, when the time is right, when I have my resources, I will help you continue your education project in another way. And so it was about 4 years ago that I thought up this concept, this idea that would really continue what she started, use the same principles, the same ideas, and I created a new theme. And what I call this character is Emmy the Dreamcatcher. And this is the first 3 books, and we'll have hopefully 3 books a year.
Wow.
Yeah, it's really just for children to become more inquisitive and be filled with imagination, and I think hopefully as well to be sort of global minded and hopefully global citizens. And I could show you actually.
Sure, yeah, and of course we'll post up some pictures on our website as well, so people can check that out.
Yeah, I'd say it's fun because in every single book she has a different dream, a different adventure, goes to a different place. It could be the future, it could be the past, it could be experiencing a different culture, and it's really quite fun, and it's a really colorful I'd say just go and check it out. Because it's hard to
explain
it's
a
hard
book
to
on
explain
radio.
A book. Yeah. This is the first time actually I had to explain a book on radio, but it's called Emmy the Dreamcatcher, and I will have a theme song for it.
I heard about that. Yeah, I wanted to ask you about that. I've heard there's music that's getting attached to it.
Yes.
So what can people expect from that?
Oh, well, it's gonna be a feel-good song. It's gonna be slightly Motown inspired.
Oh, fun.
Yeah, and hopefully I'm planning for an additional song per book.
Which would be
after
great.
that.
Yeah, that'd be really fun.
Yeah, so if the pace keeps up and if I do release 3 books a year, then we'll have quite a lot of songs.
Yeah, that's a lot of writing.
Yeah, I'm looking at about the first run, hopefully 30 books, like my aim.
Wow.
Yeah, and who knows? If we're successful, then we'll have more writers, more illustrators, and so therefore more books. But right now it's just me writing and illustrate a small illustration team. So we'll see how that goes.
Well, I wanted to ask you about that because, of course, there's sort of this stereotype of celebrities and artists doing other projects, stuff like this, or making watches or selling health goods or whatever, right? You mentioned Jessica Alba before, and that comes to mind.
Yeah.
Tell me a little bit about your involvement with this because you mentioned just now you wrote this.
Yeah.
So what was the process like for you? How do you go from creating Mandarin pop to writing a kid's book?
Well, for me, I told my mom that I wanted to help her continue what she started with education. So for me, I felt it was time to do that, and I really wanted to create. As a kid, I loved to read, and I felt that I want to encourage children to read more books. I'm sure children still do read books, but I think it's that a
lot less than we did. I
yes,
think.
That's true. That's very true. So I really wanted to try to start that somehow again. And so with Emmy the Dreamcatcher, I was also inspired. I think how that character came up is quite interesting. My cousin, who lives in San Francisco, anyway, she and her husband adopted a child from China.
Okay.
And so I was, I've always admired that very much. Parents who adopt, and their child is named Emmy, my niece. Basically, would you call that my niece? If my cousin's,
I mean, I'm Indian. That's what we do. Yeah.
Right. Yeah. So she's Emmy. So it kind of, I was inspired. I was like, okay, so Emmy. And her dreams sort of came true because she found parents, and so that's kind of where Emmy,
which
the
is so
Dreamcatcher.
sweet. I mean that.
Yeah, it was like so. So that's what I mean. Life. That's where I get my inspiration. I try to, from my life and from my personal experience. So I was like, oh yeah. So Emmy, the Dreamcatcher, and who is she? Well, in this series, I explained she's a kid who dreams and learns lessons of life and learns about different cultures. So for me, I really wanted to do something that I felt change the world a little bit in some way, I guess you could say. I don't want to sound like, how it can
You don't want to
sound
sound a little too Steve Jobs and
you know what I mean. But really, I think in art, I think for me, I feel art always has a responsibility. So whatever it is, it's even if it's for myself to remind me, it's to look into the book and say, oh yeah, truthfulness is the foundation of all human virtues. That oh yeah, great. We need to be a better person. So this book is really about having fun, being creative, and about, bringing some positive vibes. So hopefully all parents can pick it up.
Absolutely. And speaking of which, is it out now? Can people go pick this up?
It's out. It depends on when we're releasing this interview. So
I have no idea.
Yeah. It will be out in mid-ish December.
Okay, so soon.
Yeah.
If not, already passed.
And we'll have the English version, traditional Chinese, and simplified Chinese.
So accessible to everyone, basically.
Yeah, and it will
which is great.
Yeah, it'll be on our own website, which is about to be launched. It's still under testing.
So I'm sure if people look you up on Google or Baidu or whatever, it'll pop
Emmy
up.
the Dreamcatcher, yeah.
Emmy the
and
Dreamcatcher.
We'll have social media and Instagram and whatnot. So
awesome.
Yeah.
Okay, so we're talking about this. I think there's a big question that needs to be asked. You're doing some interesting stuff. I want to pick your brain a little bit about this, a little more general. Everyone right now is looking at K-pop. I think from around the world, we're all looking at Asia, we're all looking at K-pop. And right now what's going on, of course, BTS has just swept the US. There's been all sorts of talk about them. They were on Ellen DeGeneres' show. It was a big thing. What does Mandarin music have to do? What does China have to do to get to that international stage in the same way?
Well, I think first we do have to recognize the Chinese pop scene is a lot younger than the other pop. So I would say at the moment I do feel, there's a lot of good music. I know a lot of friends who are under the radar that are doing really cool stuff. I would say almost avant-garde Chinese music. but there's a slight disconnect with, I'd say, sort of the Chinese heritage and sort of what is at the base. Because, I think Chinese culture, there's a lot of, it's very rich in its heritage. So
Right,
I
yeah.
think, and if we listen to like pop music around the world, it reaches deep into its cultural roots.
Right.
You have country, you have blues, you have classical, for everywhere around the world, you can hear sort of that ethnic, the voice of the ethnicity in the background call out. So I don't know if that's the right way to put it, but you have all these elements. But I think that is something that's slightly not developed yet in Chinese music. It's not to say that we want to hear, that you should have like always something that's very obvious. I think probably even Diana might bring this up. It's not something that you want to obviously have it in all the music, but I think it's really about acknowledging your cultural heritage and letting that speak through the music. So, for me, when I did my last album, JTW, I'm not saying that I've done it, but I'm on the road to trying to experiment. And so there is a track where I had a group from Inner Mongolia.
Hangai.
Yeah, and we had a track. It was pretty interesting. It's like a sort of a rock, Mongolian track with, a bridge that is kind of like future R&B-ish. Kind of, I could say odd a little, but it's a very interesting.
It's a little insane. That definitely stuck out when I was listening to the album. Yeah.
So I'd say, it's really, I think it's just give it time and give a chance for everyone to meddle in their creativity.
Because I think it's safe to say, you and I both have spent a lot of time in Hong Kong, of course, influenced a lot by mainland China, the music coming out of there. Does the industry need to change? Or is it more just exposing what we've already got to the rest of the world?
I think... Wait, does the industry need to change in order
to sort of reach the international market? Or is everything there and we just need to push it out?
I think it's partially a mindset.
Yeah.
I mean, I think it's that hard balance between music and art and business, I'd say.
Right.
And I think I would say personally, is my opinion, that the rest of the world probably has found, because of history, that pop culture has a longer history, has found probably a more eclectic balance or a more maybe healthy balance, I think, for music to flourish, all kinds of music. So I think it's just a mindset, a developing mindset that I think we need to fall into, which is, it's not Western, it's not anything. I think it's a human thing. It's really, going back to what I like to say genuine or sincere. And I think a lot of the greatest works anywhere come from that. So I think it's just time. So we'll see.
Well, and talking about this, this raises another interesting point that I want to just touch on really quickly before we do wrap this up.
All right.
You're talking a little bit about sort of cross-global, crossing boundaries, that sort of thing. And it brings me to something a little bit about your personal life, in that you're practicing the Baha'i faith.
Right.
And, of course, a lot of people might not know much about that. They might not have heard about it. We were talking about this before, and a few names from the West that pop up. Rainn Wilson from The Office, Andy Grammer, like you brought up earlier, both Baha'i, both practicing the faith as well. Just quickly, for people who don't know about it, what is it?
Well, I'd say the Baha'i faith is one of the, probably the youngest world religion, and about 200 years old now. And, our central beliefs are really that all religions come from the same source, and they're, in a way, they're a renewal of spiritual knowledge over the years to mankind, because mankind, people, civilization progress as well from a scientific point of view, from a physical aspect, and so therefore spiritually, if you do believe in spirituality, that is something that it goes hand in hand. So, but I'd say at a fundamental basis, I'd say in a nutshell, it's a quote that really would explain to you kind of the central idea is that the world is one country and mankind is citizens. So I think for me, a lot of people go, we have an identity crisis, moving all around the place. But, as a kid being a Baha'i, you kind of are pretty much accustomed to the idea of world citizenship. So we all see ourselves as world citizens. So I think you can go on and check online or meet a Baha'i friend, but that's a bit of it for you there.
And of course there's a lot of reading that can be done online.
Yes, of course.
Everyone's written about everything.
Yes, that's right.
Well, and we should point out, I'm sure you know this, a lot of people might not, one other fairly well-known member of the faith, is Rainn Wilson
Yes.
from The Office.
Yes, Rainn Wilson and Andy Grammer.
Andy, I didn't realize that.
Yeah,
okay,
yeah.
I love Andy Grammer.
Well,
He's
you
great.
know your
You know, it's one of those weird things. I learned it years ago, and it's just never left my mind.
the Rainn Wilson one.
Yeah.
Oh, that's interesting. Oh, cool.
One of those
Yeah,
things, I guess.
yeah. But yeah, it's. I'd say a lot of my work it reflects sort of Baha'i ideas as well, and so I think that's kind of where a lot of choices that I do make in what I do and how I wish to present what I do with my art.
Interesting.
Yeah.
So we're going to have to wrap this up in a second, just quickly before we do.
All right.
Future plans. What's coming
Yep.
up?
Well, the label is going to continue.
That's going to be a big thing, I'm sure.
Yeah, I will still do. I sort of have taken a hiatus from doing full albums for myself.
Okay.
Time is an issue, but I will be doing singles and maybe EPs here and there. So we'll see about that. But I'm really focusing on the artists, in the label, and we have Diana and one more coming up. But
Yet to be announced.
Yet to be announced.
Okay.
Yeah, so we'll see. It's a lot. It's a lot actually for me. Even like the label and the Emmy project, and I don't take days off, so I work 7 days a week.
I mean, you can.
And yeah. So, but I'm very happy about it because everything is, even at this stage, it's so young, but everything is turning out really well. So very happy about that, and the team, everyone's working really hard.
Awesome.
Yeah.
Khalil, this has been an absolute pleasure. It's been great talking to you, man.
Thank you.
And we'll see you in January.
Thank you. See you then.
Awesome.
关于爱情的轻重，我们都在学习中，曾经很懵懂，用时间领悟包容，不再那么冲动。爱是难题，相处不容易。人海中找到你，可以相知相惜。I'm never gonna love again. I'm never gonna love again. 对的你，为了你，爱唯一的你。I'm never gonna love again. I'm never gonna love again. 我只想用整个未来守护着你。No matter what, no matter what, I never wanna lose this. I never wanna lose you. No matter what, no matter what, I never wanna lose this feeling. 永远都不用怀疑。I never wanna lose this feeling.的伤痛，我们都在痊愈中，所以我们懂，有一种幸福与共，因为你才不同。爱是难题，相处不容易。人海中找到你，可以相知相惜。I'm never gonna love again. I'm never gonna love again. 对的你，为了你，爱唯一的你。I'm never gonna love again. I'm never gonna love again. 我只想用整个未来守护着你。No matter what, no matter what, I never wanna lose this. I never wanna lose you. No matter what, no matter what, I never wanna lose this feeling. 永远都不用怀疑。I never wanna lose this feeling. Girl, 你让我看见爱的真谛，就在我手中握着，永不分离。我会牵着你，不会 会放开你，让爱一直延续，这是我们的专属约定。Oh, I'm never gonna love you, girl. Yeah, yeah, yeah. I'm never gonna love, never, never gonna love. I'm never gonna love, never, never gonna love. 我只想用整个未来守护你。No, no, no matter what, no, no matter what. I never wanna lose you. No, 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 no matter what. 永远 no, no, no matter what. I never wanna lose this feeling.
Big interview.
Hey guys, I'm Khalil Fong. Now you're listening to Billboard Radio China.
I love you so